Hi, welcome to Shay Stoic Chronicles. This is my first YouTube series, and I'm a little nervous. This portion of the series is about paranormal activities. I had gotten some requests to go into some of the situations that I had been in when I was younger, as I explained in my first video. Okay, so the way I grew up, I'm just gonna jump right into it. The way I grew up um, as a youngster, every house from the time that I was born until the time I was about 11. Every single house that we lived in had some kind of paranormal activity going on in it, and it affected all of us. So each video, they're going to be relatively short. If you please place, you can put your comments and suggestions and questions at the end. I don't have any links to provide because there is no place that you can really look to verify this type of information. A little about me again. I'm Shay. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I was born in 1970. There's a lot of paranormal activity that goes on up there regularly, just like parts of Virginia, which is where I live now. This particular story started when I was a baby, living in Mattapan, Massachusetts, which is in the city of Boston. I was probably about probably about two. The first encounter that I had with any type of paranormal activity was with someone I was talking to. Now, I don't know if all of you know this, but normally young babies have still have the veil where they're able to see things that we can no longer see. When children are born, they can see dead family members and spirits and things like that. And you know, my son went through it when he was young, and I kind of accepted it. It was, to me, it was kind of cool. He would just stare off into space, and then he'd start smiling and doing his baby talk or whatever. So that was kind of cool. But for me, I had to be I had to be 2 going on 3, and apparently I could talk. So one day, I was in my room, and my room had everything. I had my own rocking chair. I was still in a crib at the time. All my furniture matched. I had a bed for later on that had canopy bed, and it was great. I was the oldest grandchild, the oldest child, so I was spoiled as a baby. So this one day in particular, my mom was walking past my room, and I'm in my room, and I'm playing, but I'm talking to someone. I'm having an actual conversation with someone. So my mom said that she peeked into the room and saw, well, on her way past, she saw the rocking chair moving. It was rocking back and forth, and I'm sitting on the floor in front of it, having a regular conversation. To this day, I don't remember. I was so young. But my mother came back to the door, and when she came back to the door, the chair stopped moving. And she asked me who I was talking to. And I told her I was talking to the lady in the chair. And there was nobody in the chair. So, of course, she got freaked out, pulled me out the room and all the rest of that. But that was the first encounter that I had with paranormal activity. My father was not a stranger to this type of activity. In fact, he and my 2 uncles used to practice a lot of, I don't want to say black magic, but more or less like they would dabble in the occult. And dabbling in the occult got them a lot of things that they didn't want. Prior to this happening to me, my father and my uncles had dabbled to the point where they had let an entity into this world and didn't know how to get it out. So to this day, 48 years later, 50 years later, it's still here. Um, so that was my first encounter. And again, I was really little, so I don't remember too much of anything other than what I just told you. Now, the second encounter that I had, or I should say we had as a family, we had moved from that house into another house in the suburbs of Boston, which, in a town called Newton. And Newton had plenty of paranormal activity going on in it. The house that we moved into was a duplex, upstairs, downstairs duplex. And the day we moved in, the owner of the house told us, who lived down the bottom floor, he told us that there was an entity in the house. And she stayed in the house. She felt like that was her house. My father, not being a stranger to this type of stuff, accepted us living there. But basically, in the town of Newton, you can't get away from it. So we move in, and the day we move in, we're going through the house, we're moving our stuff in, and then we had skeleton keys to the back, a skeleton key to the back door. It led to a back hallway, which went downstairs to another door, which took us to the basement. It totally bypassed the first floor and took us to the basement where the laundry and stuff was. So my father dropped the key at the door. He was putting the key, he had just unlocked the door, and he was taking the key out of the hole, and somehow it slipped out of his hand, and it fell straight down, and it bounced under the door. Sort of. It kind of slid a little bit, so like part of it was sticking out and part of it wasn't. So he opened the door to grab the key, and when he bent down, the key was gone. We lived in that house for 7 years, and the key reappeared on the day that we moved out in the same exact spot that he dropped it in. Many things happened in this house. We used to see coats walking up and down the hallway in the middle of the night. There was one night, one day, my mother had broken a glass in the house. A glass, like plate or platter or something. And she cleaned it up. She swept up all the glass, and she vacuumed, and no glass she tied everything up and took it out to the garage. Later on that night, my father was putting us to bed, me and my sister, and he pulled the covers back. We said our prayers, and he pulls the cover back on my bed, and there's a big piece of glass in my bed. It was extremely pointy and had, the way he said it, the way he put it, because he wouldn't let me touch it, the way he put it was, if I had slid in the bed, I would have cut myself. So he asked my mother, she told him, yeah, I cleaned up and all the rest of that. And he's like, well, where'd this come from? And she was like, I don't know. I got rid of everything. So he deduced that was the entity, the ghost in the house, reminding us that she was still there. He didn't think, she wasn't really, she wasn't evil. She wasn't, she didn't scare us and do things like that. She wasn't evil. That was her house. And she reminded us that she was still there. We wound up living harmoniously with her. But in me personally, I know for a fact that she was not the only entity in that house. I think that whatever my father released into, my father and his brothers released into or brought into this world, stayed with him. So the glass was thrown away and we moved on. Then there was a night, my father went home. It's raining and storming outside. My father decides that my mother decides that she wants to watch The Exorcist. The old version of The Exorcist. And I had never seen it, of course. I'm like 6, so I had never seen it. And why she picked this night to watch this movie, I don't know. It was on regular TV. And why she chose to pick it to watch it at night, I don't know. And she had the lights off in the room and everything. So she comes and gets me. Now, me and my mom didn't get along ever, at all. So whenever she came, excuse me, to get me, she was upset about something. So she asked me to watch the movie with her. I climbed in the bed with her. We were in her room and laid there with her while we watched the movie. Now, it scared me to death, of course, because I'm 6. The commercials came on that made it tolerable. She watched some parts with the sound down. Why watch the movie if you gotta go through all this? And it scared me. Well, during the movie, there was this loud clap of thunder and this extremely bright flash of lightning that happened at the same time. When that happened, the lights in my house came on, all of them, in every room, and we couldn't turn them off. We tried and tried and tried, but we could not turn them off. So now my mom is scared because whatever we triggered from the movie is now in the house. So we're huddled up. My sister's asleep. We're huddled up in her room, in my mom's room. The movie's gone off, but now we're scared to death because we hear things and the lights won't go off. So my father finally comes home. Thank God he came home. And when he came home, and he's walking around the house trying to get everything to go off, and he can't either. So he starts talking to the ghost and asking her if it's her, and if it's her, to please turn off the lights. This is a light bill that he's thinking of. She didn't do it. And he explained to my mother, who was a bundle of nerves, that he didn't do it, she didn't do it, she didn't turn them off because it wasn't her that turned them on. She was outpowered. So the lights wound up staying on all night. And in the morning, or after, at some point in time when we fell asleep, they went off. That night in particular was a turning point for me, because I saw how powerless we actually were. Up until that point, Daddy could fix everything. And I saw actually how powerless we really were to these unseen entities. So shortly after that, all kinds of things happened in that house, where there was one instance where my sister was playing with her toys in the window, on the windowsill, and I just happened to be standing there watching. And all of a sudden, they were the old windows that had the string on them, with the pulley window, and they would go up and down like this. The wooden windows, heavy windows. So the pulley had snapped in the room, in the window that she was playing in. So we had a stick in the window to prop it up. And I'm standing there watching her, and she was playing, and all of a sudden, it was like something yanked her hand, and at the same time pulled the stick out from the window, and the window came slammed down on her fingers. I could see them wiggling on the other side of the window. So I ran down the hall and got my parents. My mom, "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything." I ran back up there. She's screaming, poor Trisha. My father ran up there and he grabbed it. At first the window wouldn't open. So he winds up getting the window up. He snatches her up and they run to the emergency room. He whisks her off to the emergency room. He came back a half hour later, which back then was miraculous, and told me there was nothing wrong with her fingers. Told us nothing wrong with her fingers. She came back with ice cream. Nothing was broken. She wasn't even in pain anymore. The doctor could not understand why it turned out the way it did. My father knew, and I knew, and he told my mother to stop blaming me because it wasn't my fault. Even Trisha told her, I didn't do anything to her. It was whatever was in the house. Now, I can't say if that was the good ghost or the bad entity. I don't know which one it was. The good ghost, she never harmed us. She never did anything to hurt us. That entity was on a totally different page. So she was fine after that. There was no issues. There was no problems with her fingers. To this day, she has no problems with her hand. It was just one of those things that happened. So there was a night when I used to go to sleep. Sometimes I had problems going to sleep. I had funny feelings in my hands. And they would feel, my hands would feel, my fingers would feel like they were this big. If I touched anything, it would feel really big. And I would see these little things in the air that would turn, they would change shape. This would scare me to death. And I could feel things in the room. And they weren't always nice. They would cause me to have nightmares. I had lots and lots, like every night. Every time I went to sleep, I would have nightmares. I stopped trying to go to sleep because I had so many nightmares. I'm about to run out of time, so real quick, this last one in this house, whatever it was that my father had let through, chose me as their breakthrough. This night, I went to sleep, and my sister and I were scared for some reason. We were scared that night, and we had pushed our beds together, and we slept with our backs up against each other. I don't know why, just that night. And I fell asleep. It was hard for me to fall asleep. I fell asleep. Well, at some point in time during the night, I woke up for a few seconds, and I saw myself standing on my bed, dancing, or jumping up and down, or moving around. And my dad standing in front of me. What's going on? What's going on? What do I do? Oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh my gosh. And I'm talking, but I'm not talking. It's not me talking. But my mouth is moving. I can vaguely hear a voice coming through my ears. Split second. It had to be like 2-3 seconds only. And I saw him and was like, what's going on? But I'm not laying down. I'm not in the bed. I'm standing up because I'm taller than he is. So maybe I wasn't even on my bed because I was a little girl. 6, 7. And I may not have even been on the bed. I may have been levitated at the time because I'm way taller than him. I'm looking down on him. And then I went back to sleep. The next morning at the breakfast table, my father said to me, do you remember anything from last night? And I said, yeah. And I told him what I remembered. And then he said to me, do you remember what you said? And I said, no. What did I say? And he wouldn't tell me. To this day, he's dead. He died in 1988. To this day, I have no idea what I said. He took it to his grave with him. But I think whatever I said had to do with the rest of my life. Because since that day, my life has not been the same. So there's more to tell. I'm going to leave this at this right now. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And the little bell. Click the little bell. I promise you that my videos will be more exciting the more I do this. I don't want to just sit here and talk. I'm going to incorporate other things. Right now, I'm getting a feel for doing this. These are going to be separate. It's a whole separate topic from the whole stoic, happiness thing. So I will do more soon. Thank you all for watching. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.